Alright, Shalom. Double honors to the apostles to JMS. Honest you brothers that be pushing this truth and sincerity. And here you have it, man. Alright. I said it just going into the beginning of this year. Alright. That we was gonna probably see a financial crash or something in the year 2015, and the Lord's will is still gonna happen. Right, but here's more proof moving towards that fact. Right, and I found this article on Russia Today. It says world record debt. Right, so this is the first time the world has ever, the whole world. We ain't just talking about America in this instance. We ain't just talking about England or whatever, or China or whatever. None of that. It's just talking about the whole world. The whole world has never been in so much debt as it is in it's never been as it is now, man. All right. But the question that should come to mind is, if the whole world is in debt, who is it in debt to, man? Right? So, and that goes back to them puppet masters, man. Right? Because this is, the way Esau brings out this information sometimes, man, you really have to read through the lines, man. You have to read between the lines. Right? If the whole world is in debt, who are they in debt to? Right? Because if a man owe me £100, right, and I owe him £200, then really I'm the only one that is in debt because I owe him £100, man. All right, that goes to show you really it's the elite bankers that are in control of everything, man. Right, so starting with them so-called Jews, man, right at the top of the ladder, right, that have gone into these different nations, right, sucked all of the wealth over these different nations, using America as the spearhead of destruction. Right, using America as their spearhead of their blade of destruction, man. All right, and by so doing, they've acquired all of this wealth, and now they set it up to where the people got to go back to them to ask to borrow off of them. Remember how the so-called Rothschilds began out, man. They began by loaning out money. People would bring them goods. Right, and they will reserve them and give them a note to say this is how much they owe, an IOU, man, which is debt, man. All right, so that person's got debt, whereas the Rothschild, the so-called Jews, got the real wealth, man, which was gold. That's how you have your so-called Federal Reserve notes right now. That the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans trust in so much right now, man. All right, but now they just go up into them different countries and just take it, man. And then you have to go to them to borrow what was rightfully yours, man. Right? So it says there, global debt has soared by 57 trillion, man. Right? Since the outbreak of the financial crisis in 2007. These are inconceivable numbers, man. These are numbers you can't put your mind around. A million, right, is 1 trillion. We got 57 million, man. Right? It's innumerable, man. You can't put a number on that. Right? You can't get your mind around 1 trillion, man, let alone a billion, man. Right? 57 trillion. Right? It says that since the outbreak of the financial crisis in 2007, right? It says with the debt to GDP ratio jumping to about 500%, right, in Japan, right? It says this raises questions about the financial stability and poses a threat of another crisis. But see, this is nobody's gonna know what's gonna happen in another crisis, man. This is a new level of debt, man. All right, and like I say, man, who do they owe? A simple question you gotta ask yourself is, who do they owe that money to? Right? And it says after the 2008 financial crisis and the longest and deepest global recession since after World War II, it was widely expected that the world economies would deleverage, right? It has not happened. Instead, debt continues to grow in nearly all countries, right? So no country is exempt from this, right? And it says it both in absolute terms and relative terms. This creates fresh risks in some countries and limits growth prospects in many. Right? Carrying on, it says according to new research carried out by consultants McKinsey in 47 countries. Right, so really that 2007 thing didn't really, they didn't really get out of that, man. In fact, they probably did a quick fix solution that made it look like the problems were solved. But man, when this one hits home, man, it's gonna hit home hard, right? And people gonna be jumping around for the mark of the beast, the chip, right, as a means of getting food, right? Because this thing, right, we're talking about, inconceivable numbers right now. It says the amount of world debt reached 199 trillion at the end of 2014, man. Ain't nobody got no country got 200 trillion to pay that debt off, man. Right, only the elite bankers got that kind of money, where they're talking hundreds of trillions, man. Right, it says with the growth rate exceeding the pace of economic expansion, right? So they basically, you're getting more debt than how much your economy is growing, which is a bit misleading, because he gives you one piece of information. You tell you the economy is growing, right? And he told you debt is growing at the same time. Of which really, when you do a proper balance sheet, man, if you get more outs than ins, then really you're going backwards, man. Right? That's why it's called debt, man. Right? So really, the economy is not expanding, man. They're just looking at one side of the same coin and not choosing to look at the other, man. Because you can sell more goods if you borrow more. Right? Doesn't mean just because you sold more doesn't mean you're making any more absolute money, for lack of a better way of putting it. Right? Because you're getting in more debt. Right? It says an expansion, and the debt to GDP ratio increased from 269 to 286%. It says higher levels of debt pose questions about financial stability and whether some countries face the risk of crisis. Right? And it didn't say one country, man. It says some countries face the risk of crisis. Now, if you know anything about how global financial market works, man. These major cities here, namely Japan, China, and the US, right? Should any one of those go into a major crisis, man, it drags the whole all of them with them. All right, it says we conclude all absent additional steps and new approaches, business leaders should expect that debt will drag on GDP growth and continue to create volatility and fragility in financial markets. All right, it says deleveraging, which means to pay off all your debts, right, remains limited to a handful of sectors in some countries. And it says the only country managing to cut their debts were Argentina, Romania, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. Right, and Israel, right? It says geographically, Ireland was the country where the debt to GDP ratio saw a record increase of 172%. It says the ratio in Japan added 64% and remains the world's highest at 400%. Right, and it says in Russia, right, the debt to GDP ratio, right, saw a moderate growth, right, of 19%, remaining relatively low at 65%. So when you see the chart here, right, see Japan is at the highest GDP, right? Spain debt to GDP for these countries, of which we just read here. They said where is it? It said 400%, the highest of 400%, but on the graph it's at 517%. So there's something incorrect about either the statement there or the chart there. But nevertheless, Russia's nowhere to be seen. So all of this stuff that you've been hearing about Russia going into an economic crisis, man, that's just Esau making noise, man. All right, because Japan's got the highest level of debt. You don't hear nothing about Japan, man. Right, you don't hear nothing about Japan's 517% debt to GDP ratio. right? So the amount of debt they own relative to how much money the country makes, right? Just trying, basically working it out on the top of my head what debt to GDP ratio actually means. All right, it says across sectors and geographies, right? There are some troubling signs. It says China's debt is soaring, right? With China is just behind Spain and just in front of the US. Right? It says it's quadrupled since 2007. It says 50% of all loans are linked to real estate and houses and all of that. Right? It says households borrow more. 80% of countries have higher. 80% of countries have higher debt. It says 75% of all of those, right, is household debts. People buying houses and all that, trying to set the legacy up for their children. Of which I'm going to get into some scriptures speaking about that in a second. It says 7 countries at risk, and 75% increase in advanced economies. Right, so in these so-called modern day economies like US and England and all of that, man, 75% debt increase, man. Right, it says exceeds 100% of GDP in 10 countries, man. Right, so I mean, man, you get the gist of it. I mean, I'm just throwing numbers at the end of the day, man. By the time we get to the end of this arc, it's just numbers and numbers, man. Right, but the important thing to see, man, is the Most High is really bringing your society down, man. He's crushing it, man. Whether he's doing it by the elite banker families, thinking that they have full control of what's happening, whether he's doing it by that, or whether he's doing it directly, man. Right, he's bringing your kingdom down, man. Right, and some of you have the nerve to believe that your house is going to continue on forever, so you look down on Jake and all of that. That's where these scriptures come into play, where it says here in Psalms the 49th chapter, 11th verse, man. The inward thought is their houses shall continue forever. And that's why they always talking about economic recovery. Right? They ain't never talking about their fall, right? Which is prophesied of in the scriptures, man. They ain't never talking about maybe we're about to catch the hell from all of that. We're gonna catch hell for all of that hell that we put on the Negroes, Hispanics, Native American. No, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, man. It says, and their dwelling places to all generations. They shall call their lands after their own names. That's why you got Egypt, Africa, right, America, right, and all of that, man. Those are all Edomite words, man, coming from the Greek, right, names of Greek, Leo Scipio Africanos, right, Amerigo Vespucci. All of those, man. Those are all Greek people, man. That's why it says here that they shall call their lands after their own names. Right? Now let's jump to the last scripture. It says here, the pride of thine heart has deceived thee. And that's me using this preaching, merely talking about the peons, man. They walk around with their heads all held up high, man. Your day-to-day Edomite, man. Because they're elites, man. The elites are devils, man. They're devils, man. They're going to get theirs, but, you peons are going to get yours as well, man. Right? It says, the pride of thine heart has deceived thee, and the pride of the elite's heart. The elites actually think that they can control the destruction that they're going to bring forth in the earth, man. But you ain't going to be able to control that or contain that, man. Because the scripture says, once you pretty much decide you want to go to World War III, man, the Most High is going to step in and have it to where you just completely lose control, man. Right, to where you're gonna be wiped off of the face of the earth. Granted, you're gonna serve your 1,000 years of slavery, man. Right, but it's gonna be like, damn, maybe we should have held out a little bit longer before we tried to bring our our new world order in. Because the minute for you to bring in your new world order, you need that World War III, right? And for the Most High to bring His new world order, He needs that World War III, man. So why don't you just up and do it, man? Right, and see who comes out on top. Right, but we know through the scripture who's going to come out on top, man. It's going to be the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth, which make up the 12 tribes of Israel, man. Right, it says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, shall bring me down. Right, it says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest amongst the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord, man. Right. Pretty much with that, man, nice and basic and all that. All right, And double honors to the apostles of GMS as always, man. Right? And honors to you brothers that be pushing this truth and sincerity. Death to the 2/3. Right? Death to the ones of our people that are dragging their heels, man. Right? That are lukewarm, like the scripture says. If thou be lukewarm, I'll spew thee out of my mouth, man. So death to them. All right. And honor to the elect of the Most High, right? And just stay sharp and pushing this thing, man. You get that from the elders anyway, but just a reminder that you should forget. All right, shalom.